Hello everyone, Science Viking here, and I'm ready to continue the Let's Play of Myth the Fallen Lords. The next level will not be as easy as the last one was.
Thursday, June 25th, near the Watcher's camp. We retreated from the river into chaos. There was no time to write until the following day, when we finally left the swamp for drier ground in the north. We held Soulblighter at the Guiol long enough to let Ulrich spring his trap on the Watcher. Turned out I was right about those arrows. Ulrich had been working on them since we entered the marsh 2 weeks ago, and they were tipped with fragments of bone from the Watcher's arm. I sure wouldn't have wanted to get stuck with one, but apparently they turned the Watcher into stone, leaving him paralyzed and helpless. But he didn't die. 30 berserks chosen to accompany the archers tore through the enemy and piled the bodies of the dead at the Watcher's feet, but all were killed before they could deliver the final blow. Rather than leave such a dangerous enemy behind us to be rescued, 100 men have volunteered to return and smash him to fragments before help can arrive.
And instead of 100 men, what we get is 18 berserks. This is the other level that I was talking about that would be seriously difficult if I ever had to do that level with, if I ever did a playthrough of this game on Legendary, because in this level, all we get is berserks. And of course, there are challenges specifically tailored to mess with having only berserks. Anyway, I am going to quick get us up a fresh recording file. You just stand still. So, I will be back in a second. Alright, got us a lovely fresh recording file, and let's do this. Yeah. You may remember, back during a long-awaited party, I mentioned a second level that would be very hard if I tried to do this game on Legendary, because we only got one unit type. Yeah, that's this one. Why is this level hard? You'll see. Of course, one reason is pretty obvious, which is that as melee units, berserks pretty much can't cause damage without taking damage, which leads to a lot of attrition. Okay, also, our fight begins with a group of thrall who have apparently lost a bet or something. That's the only explanation I can come up with for why they're here. They're not a threat to us in any way. They're not accomplishing anything. They're not a real challenge, but they're also not, like, stalling us to buy time for some other force or something. They're accomplishing nothing by being here. So the best explanation I can come up with is that they lost a bet, or otherwise someone just really wants them to die. Or I guess they're just there as a confidence booster or something. Anyway, after we steamroll the thrall, we just kind of keep heading east.
Let's go.
For most of the level.
I'm moving. Let's go.
And around the time we reach this plateau, we will get to our first actual challenge of the level.
I'm moving.
Yep, we have a shade. And, unlike the previous,
I'm moving.
And, like the shade in Seven Gates, this shade has the ability to use Dispersal Dreams, and we don't have Ulrich to back us up.
Yeah.
And also, this shade is at full health, unlike the one in Seven Gates. Even worse, the shade is backed up by a large group of ghouls, many of whom have pus packets. The issue with that is that if you attack the ghouls, then the shade can easily come after you, and will even use his Dispersal Dream potentially. But if you all try to dogpile the shade, the ghouls can attack you with pus packets. And if you attack him in too large of a group, then he will hit you with Dispersal Dream. So the best bet is to send berserks in groups of 2 and just kind of try to attack everything at once. This is actually a level that will be much easier in co-op. I mean, obviously every level, with very few exceptions, is at least a little bit easier in co-op, but this level would benefit more than most. Because the way it works is basically... The way co-op works in this game is basically... You divide the units up among the different players. Okay, that's a start.
We'll
Casualty.
I've already lost one berserk, which I consider acceptable. We're probably going to lose a couple more.
Casualty.
But we've got the shade handled. It's only a question of how many people die.
Casualty.
Answer, a few. But we're okay. We didn't lose too many people, and that's... well, the shade's gone. But in co-op, you just divvy up the same number of units between all of the different players. So you don't actually have any more forces, unlike, say, co-op in Halo, where you have additional actual Spartans who on the ground along with you. But it means you have significantly more precise control. I'm going to pull this guy in the back. We'll need him later.
Yeah.
You have significantly more precise control over your forces.
I'm moving.
Moving the injured guys towards the back. You have significantly more precise control over your forces. Let's actually go with you three.
Yeah.
You
Over
three.
here.
And then all of you. Now we have a group of soulless backed up by a group of ghouls. The issue is, once again, the ghouls have pus packets and we don't have an obvious countermeasure. The trick is, the ghouls will obviously back up their allies if you give them half a chance. So what you do is you attack the ghouls and the other units at the same time. And this way they kind of don't have any way of dealing with you. So you see, now we've managed to force the entire enemy force into melee combat simultaneously. And we can very quickly overwhelm them. If we picked a single group to go after, we would have a lot more trouble. And like I said, obviously this would be a lot easier if each group of 3 berserks
Casualty.
And that's the reason why we want to avoid attacking a ghoul with a large group of berserks. Because if he's carrying a pus packet, that pus packet will hit everyone rather than just 1 or 2 guys. Since the pus packet will detonate when the ghoul dies. That was already costly, even though it only injured some fairly inexperienced guys. Okay. You 3 stay back, but that wasn't too much attrition. That's the other problem. Without archers, or even dwarves, we don't really have a safe way of disarming ghouls armed with pus packets. The best bet is to hope they throw it and just dodge. But sometimes a ghoul armed with a pus packet will just run into melee combat.
Let's go! Let's go! Yeah.
I don't know whether or not that ghoul is carrying a pus packet, hence the caution. Okay, he just had a blade. Alright. And we keep moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of do have to try to just break the enemy's AI a little bit.
I'm moving.
And our next challenge is another group of soulless and ghouls, much like the previous one.
Let's go.
And we're going to use broadly the same tactics, just with fewer resources because, well, a lot of people are injured.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to try something slightly more advanced this time, this is more of a co-op tactic because normally the 3 groups I'm splitting my berserks into would each be controlled by different players, but I'm going to try kind of a pincer maneuver. I'm going to try to attack the enemy from 3 directions simultaneously. Forcing them to split their attention as much as I can.
Let's go. Yeah. I'm moving.
Okay, you guys are now the anti-soulless squad. So are you. With the sole exception of you.
Casualty.
Yeah.
Okay, that went all right, despite the fact that we have several critically injured berserks now. Right.
Let's go.
Well, obviously, casualties, including casualties of some of my more experienced guys. I think we lost our most experienced berserk, actually, for instance.
New units received.
And yes, we have reinforcements. While casualties are inevitable, I am trying to keep the actual deaths to a minimum. And so that's why I'm taking the experienced guys and pulling them back. Alright.
Yeah. Let's go.
And the idea is,
I'm moving.
obviously, I still have them, and I can mix them in with a more
I'm
uninjured
moving.
group.
Let's go.
But part of this is also because for the
Let's go.
final push,
I'm
having them
moving.
at least be alive is a
Let's
step
go.
up
Yeah.
from having them just be toast.
I'm moving. I'm moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
This would
Let's
appear
go.
to be a
We'll do
serious
it.
threat, and it would appear that I am doing something
go.
completely suicidal.
Let's go.
I am actually not.
Shell.
This shade has no dispersal grams. That can still
Casualty.
happen.
Casualty. Casualty.
Okay, that was still a mistake.
Yes. Yes. Over here. Yeah.
Alright. You guys,
Yeah.
I have a special mission for you. You go over here.
New units received.
Yep, and trigger the second group
I'm
of new
moving.
units. It's only 4
I'm
guys,
moving.
but we'll take it. And we have reached almost the
Over
final
here.
push. This is actually a fairly short level if you don't keep having to die and reload an old save because you died. That made more sense in my head.
Let's go. I'm
Alright.
moving.
You guys in a loose line formation, and you guys in it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter,
Yeah.
so I guess, yeah, another loose line back here.
Let's go.
These guys are pretty much going to die in 1 or 2 hits if they get attacked by a soulless.
I'm moving. I'm moving.
And most of what's guarding the objective is
I'm
soulless.
moving.
So the
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
is to have the more
I'm moving.
intact group
Yeah.
charge in first, and then once they've forced the soulless to
Let's
stop
go.
firing by getting too close to
I'm
them, the more
moving.
injured guys can help finish the soulless off.
Let's go. I'm moving. I'm moving. Over here. Yeah. Shell. Yes. I've got
Casualty.
him.
Still lost 1.
He's mine.
But that is how we do
Yeah.
that.
I'm moving.
Okay, get these guys into position, and then get these guys into position, and begin our assault on the Watcher himself, on top of this plateau. Guarded by quite a few guys.
Let's go. I'm
This is
moving.
one of the areas where it is fairly common for players to slow down the
I'm
game
moving.
speed, because it makes it significantly easier to manually
Let's go.
dodge the incoming
Over
javelins
here.
at the lower game
Let's
speed.
go. Let's go.
I would
Yeah.
consider that to be
Let's
cheating,
go.
however,
Yeah.
and especially on normal.
Over here.
I'm not doing
We'll
it.
do it.
I may do something like that on
Let's go.
Legendary
We'll
when I
do
get
it.
to this level.
Casualty.
Yes.
Casualty. Casualty.
Yep, goals are in fact armed with plus buckets.
Yeah.
Casualty.
Retreat, you can't reach
Let's
that.
go. Yeah.
Retreat again.
Let's go.
Okay.
I'm moving.
The next step is to disarm the goals. To do
I've
that,
got
I'm
him.
going to take... I don't want to try to do this with just one Berserk if I can avoid it, so I'll take one Berserk, backed up by who is almost completely uninjured, backed up by 3 more who are still
I'm
fairly
moving.
injured. The idea is
Let's
if the
go.
goals decide to turn this into a melee fight, the other guys can rush in to rescue this one, but I want them
Let's
outside
go.
of the blast of a pus packet.
Die, fools.
Knock the Berserks off one by one until the goals off one by one until they decide to turn this into a melee battle. Okay, that should be the end of the pus packets that they actually have. You just now, while the Berserks are critically injured, they attack so quickly that they can avoid taking any damage against these enemies, now that the ordnance is gone. And now, we destroy the Watcher. That explosion does not damage our units, and this one soulless managed to survive. Well, that is that. Yep, we lost most of the really experienced guys, but we still have some fairly experienced heroes. Kill ratio of only 5-1. Not terrible, but we usually do better than that. We lost 15 out of 28 Berserks, so just more than half. And the few who survived were seriously injured. Yeah, the real enemy with that level is attrition. No one encounter in that level is really that hard. It's just surviving all of them, one after the next, and just by the time you get to the Watcher, you're almost completely out of resources. This level is, if I go back and do this on Legendary, this level will be extremely hard. Anyway, that is the end for this part. I hope you enjoyed the Let's Play. As usual, please tune in next time, and in the meantime, I love you all. See you next time.